Good evening. This is what's coming up in the bulletin. Tonight, another road crash claims 6 lives. Survivors describe the horror moments when the driver of this 14-seater lost control of the vehicle.
Nikatazama juu naona tu kari imekuja kwa ubaya. Sasa ikanibeba tu na hiyo screen, ikanirudisha kwa miti na ikanirudisha kwa kichaka.
Also tonight, law and disorder. The lawyers shield and defend one of their own. As the DCI tightens its grip around lawyer Tom Ugenda in the Mumias sugar probe.
Politics should not be brought into our justice and the judicial system.
Plus, piling on the misery.
You need to move there every now and then, pleading with them to come and harvest my cane. Yet, they are talking of cane shortage.
The endless cycles of debt and other unsavory tales of sugarcane farming and the sour taste they've left in the mouths of Nyanza farmers. And also tonight, the source of the president's headaches.
You can run, but you will never hide.
The government's anti-graft purge reaches high within its ranks, but can graft busters keep up the pace?
NTV Weekend Edition with Dennis Okari.
You are right on time for this news broadcast. For many, it is still the 5th day of Christmas. Plenty of enjoyment out there. And it is the last Saturday, which is the 29th of December, the last Saturday again of the year 2018. Glad you are watching us from wherever you are watching us from. You can also tune in live, that is on YouTube, Facebook, and on our website, www.ntv.com/live. And also on our YouTube channel, you can log in NTV Kenya and you can watch us there. Our sign language presenter tonight is Flora Atieno. 6 people lost their lives in a road accident on the Kapsabet-Chemelil Road in Nandi County, in which a matatu veered off the road and rolled several times. According to police reports, 5 of the deceased were passengers who died on the spot, with the other a pedestrian who died while being taken to hospital. Julian Samboko with the details.
The 10 a.m. incident involved a 14-seater matatu from Namasco Sacco, which veered off the road and rolled several times before hitting a tree. Passengers who survived the ordeal said the vehicle had been hired to ferry persons to a wedding in Bomet County. Survivors indicate that all was well until the vehicle passed Nandi Hills, where it became unstable on the road.
Tulikuwa tumeabiri Nissan tukitoka Chomisia tunaenda Kericho kwa sherehe ya harusi. Sasa tulikuja tu vizuri, lakini vile tulikuja tukafika hapo hivi penye askari wako hapo hivi, tukapita polepole. Baada ya hapo ndio hii gari ikaanza tu kukaa kama yenye na yumba, yani imekosa kitu fulani.
Asubuhi ya leo tumepata shida kubwa area hii. Naambiwa ya kwamba kuna watu walikuwa wamesimama hapa wakingojea gari. Gari imetokesea kule juu, ambayo ilikuwa naenda harusi kule sehemu Salitein. Kakuja na nguvu sana, ikakonga watu karibu 5 hapa. Tayari msichana wetu mmoja hapa ngambo ameaga dunia, Chamutai, na kwa boma hii kuna vijana 2 wako hospitali Nandi Hills.
The medical superintendent at Nandi Hills County Hospital, Dr. Titus Sang, says 6 people, being 4 women, a man and a child, who had serious injuries were transferred to the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, while 5 others admitted at the Nandi Hills Hospital are in stable condition.
So far in the wards, we have 3 female patients who are stable. We have 3 male patients who are stable in the wards, and 1 child around 4 years.
County Police Commander Patrick Wambani, who spoke to us on phone, said preliminary investigations indicated that the driver lost control after the vehicle's brakes failed. This accident is yet another indicator of the challenges the country faces, even as it beefs up surveillance on the roads. Julian Amboko, NTV.
To another sad story, a village in Nyatike, Migori County is mourning 4 of its own after the walls of a gold mine they were working in caved in and buried them alive. The 4 were among a team of miners that braved their way in a mining expedition at the dreaded Makalde gold mines. The tragedy comes just a week after the Mining and Petroleum Cabinet Secretary John Munyes' tour of Migori County, where he promised to improve the safety of the miners. 6 people died in the mines early this year. Despite Makalda mines being death traps, locals have been adamant in their refusal to abandon the place, citing its rich mineral ores.
For pit owners, we have failed to manage our pits properly because they lack proper buildings inside, underground. So like this one of yesterday, it collapsed due to weakness because this time round it is raining and the rain has weakened the ground. So that's why it collapsed yesterday, killing those people.
Senior Counsel Tom Ojenda, Peter Wanyama, who is an advocate, Peter Kibati, a former Mumias Sugar Company, and the company's former company secretary, Emily Otieno, will be charged with misappropriation of funds and fraudulent dealings at Mumias Sugar Company when they are arraigned on Monday at the Milimani Law Courts. Director of Public Prosecutions Nurdin Haji says the suspects have been implicated in the alleged loss of 89 million shillings at the Mumias Sugar Company. NTV Setholale reports.
Embattled Senior Counsel Tom Ojenda was dramatically whisked from the Muthaiga police station, where he had spent the night behind bars, to his office in the same neighborhood where detectives conducted a 7-hour search. A host of lawyers from the Law Society of Kenya who attempted to be allowed to witness the police operation had a brief confrontation with detectives from the DCI Special Crimes Unit. Ojenda's legal team argued that their clients' rights have been violated by the authorities.
They produced an order from the JKIA Anti-Narcotics Court. The court and JKIA is established to deal with travelers and narcotics and things like that.
Professor Ojenda had not been interviewed. He had not recorded a statement. Nobody had asked him whether he wanted to record a statement.
This is the epitome of impunity. There are certain organs within the government of the Republic of Kenya that are hell-bent on ensuring that they do not comply with the law.
The LSK representative in the influential Judicial Service Commission was later rushed to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters along Kiambu Road to record his statement. Another advocate, Peter Wanyama, who was also arrested on Friday over the alleged fraud at Mumias Sugar Company, was released after recording his statement at the DCI headquarters early Saturday. The Director of Public Prosecution, Nurdin Haji, has also ordered the arrest and prosecution of Mumias Sugar Company's former Finance Director, Peter Kibati, and the company's former Secretary, Emily Otieno.
There's really no reason why, and that's why I'm saying that politics should not be brought into our justice and the judicial system.
Through a statement, the DPP stated that the inquiry files relates to allegations of use of fake court proceedings, number and parties spread across the country in different courts that were used by several legal service providers to obtain monies as legal fees from Mumias Sugar Company. Senior Counsel Professor Tom Ojenda was one of the advocates involved with the assistance of former officers of Mumias Sugar Company. The suspects will be charged with, among others, financial misappropriation and fraudulent dealings at Mumias Sugar Company. Seth Olale, NTV.
8 officials from the Kenya Revenue Authority, Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, and Landmark Clearing and Forwarding will be charged with more than 20 graft-related counts on Monday when they are arraigned. The suspects who were arrested on Friday and are currently in custody at the Muthaiga police station include Esther Wangoi, Elizabeth Nyambura, and Ali Thuo, all Kenya Revenue Authority officials, Cornelius Nyamwamba and Frederick Cheruyot from KEBS. Others include Samuel Mburu Kamau, Ibrahim Tohirand, Harrison Zizi, and Mushiri of Landmark, and Clearing and Forwarding. Some of the charges preferred against the suspects include abuse of office, conspiracy to defraud, and concealment of imported goods. Samburu County leaders have condemned the deaths of 2 children due to explosives which detonated while they were herding livestock on Friday morning in a village there, Arches Post area. The leaders say the Kenya Defence Forces has refused to put precautions in the area, leading to increased number of injuries and deaths.
Residents of Naishamuye village in Samburu East area yet again mourned the deaths of 2 children who died on Friday after explosive detonated while they were herding livestock. The incident is reported to have occurred at 10 a.m. yesterday as the 2 boys, brothers aged 11 and 14, took a break to play with a device that later exploded, killing them instantly. The residents want KDF to mop up undetonated bombs in the area to avert future disasters as their children continue to lose life and limbs as a result of surgeries.
Kila kitu ambayo anaishi hapa Naishamuye anakaa tu kimungumungu.
Speaking during a visit to console the family of the deceased, Samburu County Senator Letumbesi Lelegwe blamed KDF for laxity in exercising due diligence and constantly exposing the lives of residents to danger.
It's really terrible and people are suffering, and I'm sure we will going to lose more lives if the military, the government does not act to make sure that they mop all those equipment and put them in a safe place.
Within the last 1 month, 5 children have lost their lives to similar explosives in the area, while another child is still fighting for his life in a hospital in Meru. This comes a few weeks after Samburu Governor Moses Lenol Kulal asked the Kenya Defence Forces for compensation for the death of 2 children who were blown up in Arches Post, Laresoro area. Bodies of the 2 children are currently at the Isiolo Referral Hospital mortuary. Doreen Majala, NTV.
The fate of over 10 million learners has been left in a state of limbo just 3 days to the beginning of a new term as teachers stand firm in their decision to boycott classes amid conciliation talks initiated by the Ministry of Labour to unlock the stalemate that threatens to paralyze the education sector. NTV's Zainab Ismail reports.
Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong.
The strike is in force, as was voted for and was notified to the Ministry of Labour with effect from 2nd of January.
This was the resolution by the Kenya National Union of Teachers following a day-long meeting with the Conciliation Committee appointed by Labour CS Okari to spearhead mediation talks between NAT and TSC to avert the impending strike, one that seems to have now hit a snag.
When an employer cannot listen even to a directive of the Cabinet Secretary for Labour, we respect the Cabinet Secretary for Labour. And he has written such a letter to TSC that for conciliation to proceed, parties must drop their headlines. And TSC was clearly instructed to drop what they are doing. But what have we seen today? One Kihumba Kimodo celebrating over the media that over 80% of teachers who are transferred have taken over. What has happened is that papers have been exchanged, but the hearts of teachers have not moved. Teachers are still pained and hurt.
The teachers' union said it was angered by TSC's decision to transfer more than 3,000 head teachers, which they termed as irregular.
The purported transfers and the purported handing over, taking overs, the massive delocalization, inhuman delocalization as a precondition of any further dialogue.
Earlier this year, NAT had opposed the teachers' transfer, which was part of TSC's delocalization program. NAT Secretary General Wilson Sosion further faulted TSC on their persistence with regard to teachers' performance contracts and appraisals, terming it as intimidating. The Conciliation Committee, headed by employee relations expert Charles Maranga, is expected to hold a similar meeting with TSC on Monday, which will be followed by a joint meeting on the same day. NAT has, however, vowed to boycott the planned joint meeting. The strike, if effected, will disrupt the education calendar that is set to kick off in January when learners resume to school from the long Christmas holiday that started in November. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
The slain former University of Leeds student Carlton David Minor was today laid to rest in an emotional send-off at Kanorero village, Kangema constituency in Murang'a County. Many spoke and condemned the student's killing, calling on the government to speed up investigations and arrest the police officers behind his shooting. Minor, who was 22, was shot dead by police in Lainisaba, Kibera on the 21st of this month while heading home after watching a football game. The burial ceremony, which started in the afternoon, attracted the deceased colleagues and hundreds of youth from Kibera and human rights activists who demanded justice for the slain student. A minor who was home for the December holiday was supposed to fly back to England where he studies. The shooting cut short the life of the former Maseno School student who scored straight A's in the KCSE examination in 2013. Local and international human rights defenders vowed to join hands to ensure that the police officers behind what they termed as extrajudicial killings are brought to book. They, at the same time, took a swipe at elected leaders for what they termed as continued silence over the incident. The Independent Police Oversight Authority has launched investigations into the killing.
Such a good friend. He was meek, he was gentle, he was humble, and he was so smart. He was so smart.
Elders from the Tugen community in Baringo County conducted cursing rituals to inflict pain and suffering to cattle rustlers who have been giving them sleepless nights and stealing their livestock.
Elders from the Tugen community converged at Koroto Forest in Baringo North to perform a traditional cursing ceremony. Cursing rituals among the Tugen are carried out by select elders deemed to be of saint-like behaviors. The elders say they resorted to curse criminals who have been giving them sleepless nights by stealing their livestock.
Busi kupotea, mzinga ya nyuki kufunwa asali.
Kuanzia panga, kuanzia TV, vitu jote wameanza kuiba.
The elders said they had given bandits 3 weeks to surrender stolen animals or be cursed. The deadline has expired and not even a single goat was surrendered.
Tumechukua hatua ya kuita wale watu na suspect, lakini walikuwa wakiruka na wakaamua kwa sauti moja kwamba mpaka tulaani watu ili iwe funzo kwa wale wengine ambao wana nia ya kuipa.
Journalists were only allowed to watch, take photographs and record the event a few meters from the sacred venue beside a river. While making traditional chants, one by one they invoked the spirits to do their bidding. The elders claim that casting spells on the criminals has borne fruit over the years because they have surrendered stolen animals.
We believe we'll sort out so many issues relating to not only stealing but cattle rustling as well.
Hiyo laana ikipata mtu hawezi kupona, huyo mtu atakufa. Bila shaka na anashikwa pengine tumbo na fura, pengine anakuwa mgonjwa akipelekwa hospitali, pimo na daktari, ile shida ameshika yeye hawezi kuonekana. Mpaka saa ile anaitana anasema wasee kujeni. Basi wasee wanarudi, wanapeana mate. Alafu yule mtu anapona tu na anaresume, anakuwa restored kwa Kiingereza.
After the cursing ceremony, according to elders, any person who dares steal will face their wrath.
17 minutes past the hour. On that note, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. Now, obsolete machines, large debts, cane poaching, disillusioned farmers, unscrupulous transporters and moribund regulations define what is today the sugar industry in the country's Nyanza region. In our second part of The Sugarcane, Oko Kusa takes an in-depth look at the troubles of sugarcane farmers and public millers in the Nyando sugar belt, where a raging debate on zoning has split stakeholders right in the middle. Here is the second part of our special, The Sugarcane.
After long serving in civil service, I came back home and I embarked on cane farming now as a full-time source of my livelihood. Here we are is my sugarcane plot, which is now mature, and it would have been harvested maybe May, June there, but it has gone past harvesting period because of the closure of Muhoroni.
Mike Agao is a sugarcane farmer here in Muhoroni. Agao is one among thousands of people who have been practicing cane farming in the Nyando sugar belt for decades now, cashing in on the big money that once flowed freely in the sugar industry. But as Agao explains, things have since taken a nosedive. What used to be a money-minting venture has turned into a money-chasing adventure.
You need to move there every now and then, pleading with them to come and harvest my cane. Yet, they are talking of cane shortage.
Farmers' arrears tops the list of shame the state-owned sugar factories have to grapple with, followed closely by tax arrears. Others include unpaid electricity bills and workers' salaries. At Muhoroni Sugar Company, for instance, farmers and workers are demanding up to 570 million shillings owed to them by the company. According to Francis Oko, one of the new joint receiver managers, the situation at the time they were assuming office was so grim to the extent that they were forced to sell part of the cane in the nuclear farm to a competitor in a bid to salvage the company.
That one was giving us something to do with 500 million. And the genesis of this 500 million was because the schools were opening and we were to give the employees. Now the miller we had taken sugarcane to delayed. Then we talked to the staff in one of the team briefs we had with the staff, and the staff agreed that we can use that money to start the plant.
For 17 years, Muhoroni has been struggling to stay afloat in the face of a 40 billion shillings debt, inadequate cane supply, occasioned by what has come to be known as cane poaching, and obsolete milling machines that break down constantly.
I could imagine a day when we had to take a 12-ton lorry to Kisumu just only to carry 1 ton of alum, because the other units were grounded. Those are the only units which were now moving.
Even though Muhoroni is shielded from trade debts, being that it is in protected receivership, the taxman has kept its eyes trained on the company's accounts, determined to recover unremitted tax that have accumulated since 2001, when the mailer was put under receivership.
Tax arrears, 861 million. The figure is now a bit low because we have paid. A real reconciliation has to be done. But I'm telling you the figure which was there when we were coming in. Yeah.
Next door is Chemelil Sugar Factory. Established in 1966, Chemelil's story reads not a page better than that of Muhoroni. Last year in May, when the current managing director Gabriel Nyangwesu took over the running of the factory, said to be the biggest in the Nyando sugar belt, he was quoted in a section of the media saying that he only found a paltry 38,000 shillings in the company's account.
At that time, not everything was right. More so, particularly the sugar price. So we are milling and we are making losses. Every day we are milling, we are making, for every bag of sugar we are making a loss.
Just like Muhoroni, the debt burden in Chemelil too is running into billions of shillings. But unlike Muhoroni, the Chemelil MD says that the company will not prefer to take a bailout route when it comes to dealing with its debts.
We'll rather not apply for a bailout, but rather apply for maintenance of the factory. Yeah. To me, the critical thing is to maintain the factory, then we make our money. Yeah. Because a bailout is just giving you the food. Then after you have cleared it, what happens next? You need to know how to make the food. So our only request will be to, I know the board will consider it, but we'll have to ensure that the factory is maintained properly.
But even as the MD appears to lay emphasis on operational efficiency, Chemelil's 2,273 hectares of nuclear land today remains underplanted, forcing the company to rely on surrounding farmers for its cane supply.
Currently, we are getting very low yields from the nucleus because of the previous inability to maintain the cane, and due to that, we are getting between 40 to 50 tons per hectare instead of the desired over 70 tons per hectare.
And then there is the Awendo-based South Nyanza sugar factory, Sony, which is 99% owned by the government. Here too, there is a colossal debt burden.
But we have a government loan which is long-standing, about 1 billion Kenya shillings, 1 point something. Ideally, that is what I would speak of as an outstanding debt. But there are these like tax arrears, a bit of payment that we have not made to probably some of the suppliers. These ones, in my view, are operational debts, which any business that is running, whether you're making money or not, you will still have some. Yes, yeah.
An acute cane shortage this year saw all the state-owned mills, including Sony Sugar, halt operations intermittently for several months. An inadequacy that has partly been attributed to the collapse of contractual farming and the emergence of privately owned mills.
When these mills set up, they did not, as a prerequisite, develop adequate quantities of raw material for their milling capacities. So what did they do? They got into outgrower areas where we had established adequate quantities of sugarcane for our mill. And they stole it, basically. They just stole it, and that reduced our quantities.
In the heyday years, farmers used to enjoy technical support and credit facilities from the millers in the form of input loans and services during land preparation and harvesting. But due to dwindling resources, most farmers today have been left on their own to develop and nurture their crops till they are ready for harvesting.
Like this cane, there is no loan on it. It is developed fully, privately from my own source.
I'm a large-scale farmer. Generally we do not get anything from the sugar factory. We buy our own inputs, we do our own work, and then we just supply to the sugar factory and expect to be paid for the cane supplied.
This model of farming has given rise to a vice known in Luo as chuthber, a strategy applied by unscrupulous transporters in the sugar sector to fleece farmers and subsequently make sugar production in the country expensive and unprofitable.
Chuthber is when you want a tractor to come here and carry your cane. The loaders will tell you, gentlemen, with us, huko nyuma tunataka 3,000. The driver will tell you, and by that time you will go to the factory and the line is very long. The driver will tell you that I'll go today, I'll spend there. Give me my 2,000. There was a time I harvested cane and I took it at 6,000 per trailer. Because it was burnt and I don't want it to go to a waste, so you have to sacrifice.
And then we'll also pay the transporter. After the farmer, from the farmer's due. So you see the farmers already lost maybe 3,000 and is also losing the cost per ton. Transport cost per ton. And it's out of the desperation. Just because we don't have many people who are able to transport here.
And then there is the thorny issue of zoning. In the year 2010, Justice Martha Koome, while ruling on a court case pitting two sugar millers, declared Kenya a free market economy, essentially giving farmers the freedom to sell their cane to a miller of their choice. Whereas public millers fully support zoning, private millers and farmers have vehemently opposed the idea.
This is a free economy. It should be a free economy. If I want to send it to Ramisi in South Coast at Mombasa, why can't I? It's up to me to work out the economics of transport or whatever. So from that point of view, zoning is a bad thing. But at the same time, if you're a small farmer and you wait for Mahoroni Sugar, for example, to come and do all the operations on your farm, and you owe them money, and then you go and sell it to West Kenya or to Kibos, there's also something wrong there, you will admit. That farmer should not be allowed to do that. So in that case, zoning is a good thing because it ensures the factory gets their what is rightfully theirs, if the factory has done the work.
A farmer takes cane wherever he likes. Who is going to give him a proper and good service and prompt payment, rather than tying you to Moroni, and Moroni is not crashing in time, not paying you in time.
You give farmer seed cane, you facilitate farmer, and somebody comes and takes the cane. And the farmers support it because they want ready money and they run away from the deductions for those who supported them. That is stealing.
Zoning was initially supposed to ensure a 70-kilometer radius gap between one miller and another. But when private sugar mills started mushrooming next to existing public mills, it was clear that the battle for zones had ended. However, in what appears to be a final attempt by government factories to stop what they consider to be unfair competition stemming from the private mills, the state-owned mills are pushing for the introduction of zoning through a recently gazetted Sugar General Regulations 2018. In the draft regulations, the public millers have proposed to outlaw the construction of new factories within the registered zone of another miller.
The farmers don't want zoning because they want competition. We also are talking about, we don't want the mill command zone where every mill has a command area. We are saying let's have regions. These regions, the farmer will have at least 2 to 3 millers that they can depend on to buy their cane. But at the same time, it will also reduce the issue of poaching.
Joyce Opondo is the Corporate Affairs Manager at Kibos Sugar and Allied Industries Limited, one of the privately owned sugar mills in the region. With a crushing capacity of 3,500 tons per day, Kibos has definitely claimed its position among the giant sugar millers in Kenya today. Though the factory prides itself for championing a farming model it claims is tailored to benefit small-scale cane farmers, public millers disagree.
Most of the time we tell our farmers to produce their own cane so that they are not burdened with a lot of loans, which sometimes they take their cane to the miller and the miller says that your loan is bigger than actually what you brought in. So we tell them, produce your own cane at your own cost, bring it to us, then we will pay you the full amount. It's better that way, it's a better model.
Let me tell you, in sugar production, rule of thumb, 60% of the cost of production is agriculture. It's only 40% that is processing. So if you invest 60% of your resources in cane production, then somebody comes and takes it without investing. The person who has not invested in cane production has started 60% ahead of the guy who invested in the cane. And then when they sell, they say, oh, see, we are efficient, we are making profit. Complete nonsense, hogwash. Don't never ever believe that.
With a new year beckoning, cane farmers here in the Nyando sugar belt are hoping that the wheels of good fortune will this time around grind in their favor. Okukusa, NTV.
Time now for a breather from that story about Kokusa, hoping that the farmers will find some reprieve at least come next year. We're taking that break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, the year 2018 has been marked by a number of corruption scandals worth billions of shillings, the Friday arrest of top public officials implicated, and the usual days in court. This is the new war on graft, an ill that the president admits in his administration's biggest migraine. According to Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Kenya loses close to 608 billion shillings every year to graft, and the president is desperate to get the corruption yoke off his neck. Will he succeed? Vincent Odoro takes stock of the war on graft this past year.
2018 was marked by a series of breathless exposés of looting in a number of government institutions.
Coming from the defense.
Set of documents. And at the National Cereals and Produce Board, where money meant to pay farmers who had delivered maize to NCPB was paid out to fake farmers. The NCPB scandal angered the president, who had quite a mouthful for Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri.
Waziri wa Kilimo Bwana Kiunjuri, tujue ya kwamba sasa mchezo umeisha. Tafuta hawa watu ambao wanakula mali ya wengine, utuletee tufunge, ama wewe mwenyewe utakuwa na shida katika hiyo shida mambo.
But the NYS scandal was perhaps the most glaring and colorful. It was an audacious theft executed for the second time. Corrupt National Youth Service officials set up dummy companies, forged tender documents, and exploited vulnerabilities in the public finance management system known as IFMIS to pull off one of the most brazen-faced frauds in recent times. And everyone, including senior government officials and even a lead investigating officer, got something out of it. Everyone except the Kenyan people. The public face of the scam was perhaps this family, the Ngiritas of Naivasha, that made a killing from supplying nothing to the NYS. For supplying air, they walked away with 60 million shillings. So there could be delays associated with the report. Top National Youth Service officials, including the then Director General Richard Ndumbai and the then Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Youth Lilian Omolo, were arrested and detained over the 9 billion shillings scandal. They were among over 40 other NYS suspects who faced corruption charges. The making of these NYS scandals snapped the president's patience, and he then ordered some radical measures to tame runaway graft,
including polygraph testing to determine their integrity and suitability.
All procurement and accounting heads were also directed to step aside to allow for their vetting. The directive was to affect hundreds of public service workers. The president will 2 weeks later administer yet another dose of his corruption antidote.
You must explain. Na ule wa kwanza kufanyiwa lifestyle audit ni mimi, kwa sababu mimi ndio mfanyikazi number 1. Si ndio hiyo? Yes. Mimi, alafu tuende kwa huyu. Hii pesa unatoa wapi? Na kama huna jibu, kuna mwingine kamiti anakugojea huko na atakupatia jibu yako.
But most of his pronouncements have at times failed to capture the public's imagination, and often he had found himself caught in a public outcry for more house cleaning, even as he airs his frustration in public. At his last national celebrations this year, the president was still in step with his straight talk that the government will not entertain corruption.
You can run, but you will never hide. We will catch up with you and make you pay dearly for every coin stolen from Kenyans.
Anti-corruption crusaders have urged the president to go easy on the rhetoric and get back on the front foot in the fight against graft. And as the war on graft was before, about small victories and big doubts, the president can chalk up the appointment of new faces to lead the charge as a plus in his anti-graft crusade.
Nobody will come to me to start talking about work or try to influence me.
That day when it will come, in the manner it's supposed to come, whether by a bullet, whether by poison, whichever way it will come. So I've surrendered to fate.
From fighting crime in the shadows, Director of Criminal Investigations George Kinoti and Director of Public Prosecutions Nurdin Haji have been leading the offense in the limelight.
An economic criminal is just like that harmed criminal.
Their tenure in office has been marked by a number of high-profile arrests. The purge has touched on the upper ranks of government and public institutions where billions of shillings of taxes has been lost or stolen. It has public confidence in the DPP and the DCI grew. The EACC's star shone less brighter. The DCI was seen to be working hand in glove with the DPP to the apparent exclusion of the EACC.
Wewe wako wewe. Ulinisimamisha hapo mbele ya bunge, nikafuta mawaziri na nani ambao sasa wananilaumu mpaka wa leo. This is 2 years. Hujaniambia where their guilt is.
On August 18th this year, EACC Chairman Eliud Wabukala led the Commission chiefs to State House amid fears that they had been sidelined in the renewed war on graft, and that the president had lost faith in the agency and was leaning more towards the new team.
God bless you.
The president, however, in that meeting reassured the EACC of his support, asked them to work with other agencies as the war on graft was not a source of competition. And to boost the EACC's fortunes, a former military man Twalib Mubarak was appointed to the helm of the anti-graft agency to take over from Halake Wako. It has not been lost on observers that the shake-up of the graft-fighting agencies was among President Uhuru Kenyatta's first order of business after being elected for a second time. The president has often admitted that graft is his administration's biggest headache. The EACC estimates that the country loses about 608 billion shillings every year. And winning the war forms the core of the president's legacy.
Asante. Bwana President Uhuru, ukitaka kugonga ufisadi, gonga kichwa, wacha kugonga mkia.
In 2018, the war on graft saw several public officers being arrested on Fridays, detained in police cells over the weekend, before being arraigned in court to face corruption charges. However, after denying the same charges, suspects were always released on bail. Now, what anti-graft crusaders are yearning for is to have those implicated with corruption convicted. Vincent Odur, NTV, Nairobi.
Well, that special on corruption by Vincent Odur just sums up the trends of the arrests on Fridays. Started with drunkards being arrested on the highways on Fridays, and now corruption suspects are being arrested. And they're all complaining. The latest one being today, where lawyers who are in support of Professor and Senior Counsel Tom Ojendo are complaining why the arrests are being made on Friday. On that note, let's take a break. We'll come back with more stories. to NTV Weekend Edition. A primary school teacher in Bungoma County is on the run after impregnating a class 7 pupil and convincing her to procure an abortion. The 13-year-old pupil said she had been having an affair with the teacher since June.
The suspect, who is a teacher at Luhuna Primary School in Bungoma, is accused of defiling a 13-year-old girl and impregnating her. The girl says she had been having a relationship with the teacher since June. After the teacher realized the girl was expectant, he allegedly forced her to procure an abortion in a nearby clinic.
Nikakutana naye akaniambia, kaa hapa tuende kukupe dawa ya kuosha mtoto kwa tumbo. Na mimi nikamwambia, ni dawa yenye umenipatia hapa ati ya kuongeza nguvu kwa mwili, ameniambia nimeweza mara moja kwa siku. Akaniambia hapana, kuna nyingine tuende kukupatia. Na mimi nikamwambia sawa.
The mother of the girl says she knew about the pregnancy a month ago. However, on the 24th of this month, the teacher waylaid on her way home from an antenatal clinic and convinced her to follow him to a clinic where a medic took tablets in her cervix and injected her. A few days later, the 13-year-old was bleeding heavily.
Sikujua, nilimuona tu matatizo ikianza shina ine hiyo, nikamuuliza nini mbaya, mbona unalia tumbo? Akaniambia vile nimeenda hospitali huko kutibiwa kwa kliniki, nilipata mwalimu mwenye alinipatia mimba, akaniambia twende utibiwe zaidi.
The head teacher condemned the incident, saying many pupils in the area have been impregnated by rogue teachers.
We shall still wait for the education office to give us guidance, plus the county office, because he is an ECD teacher.
The student is now recuperating in hospital as her parents and teachers deal with the issue of having the teacher face the law. Fatima Bogu, NTV.
We're going to take another break, but not before mentioning something interesting happening in the English Premier League. Arsenal playing Liverpool, and the scoreline is 4-1, I believe, 5-1. It's actually 5-1. Oh, I checked just a few seconds ago, it was 4. Now it's 5-1. And I love one comment here, and I'm sure this is going to be among the stories that Brian Otwell will be bringing us after the break. No defense, no communication, no backbone, no discipline, no Wenger, no change. Let's take a break.
Back home, welcome. My name is Brian Otual. We have the Kenyan Premier League, and Mathare United maintained their unbeaten start to the Kenyan Premier League with a 2-1 win over Posta Rangers at their Afraha Stadium in Nakuru. Kevin Kimani's first half goal saw Mathare take the halftime lead, and Cliff Nyakea netted an early in the second half for the Slum Boys. Dennis Okari scored Posta's consolation in the 76th minute. Mathare topped the standings on goal difference, tied on points with Western Stima, who were held in Mombasa.
He went on one side. By the time he's coming to the other side, he knows he should have done better.
And Western Stima and Bandari shared the spoils to keep the unbeaten record following a 1-1 draw at the KPM Baraki Sports Club. Wycliffe Ochomo gave Stima the lead before Kevin Okongo ensured they took home a point through his equalizer to drop to 4th on 8 points. And Tusker compounded KCB's woes with a 3-1 thrashing in the early kickoff at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. Sydney Ochieng netted a brace, and defender Lloyd Wahome scored the third goal. KCB's Simon Abuko pulled one back for the Bunkers, and KCB, who lie 17th, remain winless after losing their first 2 games and drawing last weekend. Tusker lie 5th on 7 points. Misfiring AFC Leopards played out a barren draw with Vihiga United in a SportPesa Premier League match played at the Kenyatta Stadium, Machakos. A host of lost scoring chances from both sides saw Leopards rise to 14th on 3 points, with Vihiga remaining in 7th on 5 points from 4 matches. Duke Abuya scored the lone goal of the match as Kariobangi Sharks beat Gor Mahia 1-0 at the Kasarani Stadium. The win saw Sharks continue their fond dominance over the defending league champions, with the win being their 3rd on the straight. Sharks climbed to 3rd on 8 points, with Gor Mahia remaining 12th on 3 points. Sony Sugar collected their 2nd win of the season after seeing off Zoo FC 2-1 at their Wendo Green Stadium. Super sub Steven Onyango ensured the Millers pocketed all points after Derek Otanga had cancelled Dennis Chetambe's opener early in the first half. Sony climbed to 6th on 7 points, with Zoo dropping to 15th on 3 points. In other matches, Ulinzi Stars drew 2-2 with Sofapaka. Chemelil Sugar beat Mount Kenya United 2-0. Kakamega Homeboys drew 1-1 with Nzoia Sugar. Moving on, Gor Mahia have drawn Cameroon's new star Didola in the CAF Confederation Cup playoff to be played in January. The winner of this tie will qualify for the group phase of the Continental 2nd tier tournament. The Kenyan champions were demoted to the lower competition after they were kicked out of CAF Champions League by Nigeria's Lobby Stars. The Cameroonian side progressed to this round after edging out Libya's Al Ahly Tripoli. In other draws, Zambia's Zesco United will battle it out with South Africa's Giants Kaizer Chiefs, while Sudan's Al Hilal will meet Rwanda's Mukura Victory. A National Gun Owners Association of Kenya 2018 NDA shooting competition was held in Kirigiti, Kiambu County, with this year's target focusing on making all participants proficient, key emphasis on safe use of the firearms. This as anti-drugs tournament was launched in Emali town, with Kaloleni residents set to benefit from a fitness program launched to be held every weekend in the area. The National Gun Owners Association of Kenya 2018 NDA shooting competition brought together a host of shooters with the monthly trainings meant to bring the proficiency levels of the members to standards which they could use to protect themselves if need be. The event had 4 gun events with 8 courses of fire, with each shooter using 4 different weapons in the different courses of fire. The team had also represented Kenya at this year's International Defensive Pistol Association Africa Championships in South Africa, where they finished top.
The purpose of this is to test your level of proficiency. But equally to that, we have also done several competitions outside Kenya. We've been able to represent our country in South Africa.
And over 100 Nairobi residents stand out for the inaugural fitness program organized by former Makadara Member of Parliament Ruben Ndolo at Kaloleni's basketball court in Nairobi. The participants drawn from the surrounding estates were taken through the intensive aerobics sessions by professional fitness trainers. The 6-month-long exercise, to be held every Saturday and Sunday, has been started to keep the youths away from evil vices in the society as the old gain fitness necessary for a healthy living.
We have been now doing for the past 2 months this aerobic free exercise, and we are also thinking that when it's going to catch up, the whole city will enjoy what we have been planning to do.
Elsewhere, 10 teams, both men and women, will take part in the second edition of the grassroots tournament Knicks Cup football and volleyball tournament launched in Emali Mulala ward by the area MCA with the aim of sensitizing area residents on the dangers of drug abuse. The participating teams were issued with jerseys, playing balls and cash to finance the operations, with the victorious teams getting trophies.
Maandalizi ya hii cup kwa ajili ya kusaidia vijana wetu ambao wana vipaji, na pili hasa sana ni kwa ajili ya miadarati ambayo imeenea hasa kwa mji wetu mkuu.
And Tottenham's Premier League title hopes suffered an unexpected setback as Wolves scored 3 times in the last 18 minutes to come from behind and win 3-1 at Wembley. Spurs, who would have moved 3 points behind leaders Liverpool with a win, looked to be heading for victory after Hurricanes'
It's a thrashing, a serious thrashing, and they still look very, very threatening on the goal.
Yeah, Arsenal will always lose, as I say.
They will always lose.
Right?
Well, we don't expect them winning, but not this kind of losing. I mean, 5-1, it's serious, and Liverpool still look like a big threat. Actually, there's a commentator who was saying that Klopp was talking to some of the teammates. I think they have less than 10 minutes to go. Why are they not pushing the ball to the box?
Right.
So you can tell they have the will to just keep scoring, not just winning this match.
Indeed, the title is for Liverpool to lose, but we have the second leg remaining, January starting off, and we hope for a different change in the results.
And that's always the tricky part.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of games, this Champions League, so people tend to slacken a bit. But let's see how this turns out. Manchester United tomorrow. I just hope that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will continue his winning streak. All the best to all the teams that will be playing tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching NTV Weekend Edition. It's been a long week. This is our last Saturday bulletin here. I'll be seeing you in 2019. Thank you so much. What's her name again? Flora Atieno has been our sign language presenter. I'm so fatigued, I think. So
I know, man.
Pleasant viewing. Have a good night.
All right, we play again next year. Have a good night.